there any questions? Well, so I will start. Okay, maybe not. Well, yeah, I just have about the SVT. I wasn't sure how you were setting up like the diffusion of the SVT. How were you?
Yeah, this is simply based. I mean, we don't invent anything, so we just use the principal component analysis that is proposed by Stargin and some of the works that are in here. So these are the variables that are used. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13 or 16 variables, and then you take the principal component of that, and that's the second reference you show kind of score.
So across US states?
Across US states,
okay.
Yeah. And our idea is in this graph was exactly to show that even if we use this kind of like Twitter sample, we can track some things that are actually based on, let's say, data for the population or representative data. Yeah.
Melinda?
So 2 questions. I really like this. It's interesting. Every time I see it, I like it. So one nasty question and then one sort of nice question. So what about, some people are arguing in the big data world that this kind of data will eventually be able to replace surveys and censuses and other things. And you're showing that there's some correlations, and we've seen some other things with Twitter as well, showing that it picks up a lot of demographic characteristics. So I was wondering if you could talk a bit about selectivity, and if you really think this is true with that's a nasty question. And then the other one, I'd just be really interested if you could talk a little bit more about the machine learning and the false positives, because I think that's a really big problem in this kind of research too.
Yeah, thank you. I personally am, and I'm not kidding. I don't believe that these data can actually substitute traditional surveys, of course, unless we have 100% of the population in that, and we also can control what they write. But I kind of like the idea of, for example, which is led, of course, by Emilio Zaghini, really Kashyap in Oxford, is that we can use kind of environment of data where basically we have traditional surveys and also kind of digital trace data to have a better, or like more nuanced pictures of trends. And of course, this speaks directly to the question of representativeness of this data, because we know that the population in general is younger, higher educated, and maybe for this specific question this might be less problematic than for other questions, but of course there is a lot of work to do. And I would also add in that very quickly that it's actually, for what we know now, is more likely that this data will disappear, because actually APIs, like Twitter API is not open, but there is a trend of restricting these access because these companies are realizing these data are valuable, and if you look at Facebook, Instagram, so there is a trend where basically researchers are less and less able to access these data. So if that's more worrying than declining server response rate or other things. In terms of machine learning, I mean, the thing is that these data are really noisy. Like, there's a lot of people who define themselves as like dads or moms of pets, for example. And how do you deal with that? Do you kind of like input all the different kind of like breeds or of dogs, and then whatever that turns up, you just drop it? It's not easy. But I think that on this, machine learning is not a panacea. It's really also the researcher engaging with the data in a critical way and trying to understand what are the patterns. And we're not going to get, since for the way they are generated, these data are never going to be as clean as survey data. But I mean, to me it was surprising to see this kind of correlation. Still, you can say something, and then we kind of have a realistic approach to this data. It's the way forward, I think.
Okay, I can take only one question because she didn't ask. Okay.
My comment is somewhat related to what we just discussed with Melinda, but I want to take it a little further. There is not, as in the census, there's one official census, but in the social media world, there's not one official social network. There is Twitter, there is Instagram, there is Facebook. Some people post on all of them. They will always be overrepresented if you do such service, and some of them will post in none of them, and some choose only one of them. And these are the most difficult people, because if you look only at Instagrammers, then you get a special type of subpopulation. This already says something about the personal characteristics of the people, because the Twitter users are quite different to the Instagram users, and they are quite different to the Facebook users. And I think it's a really, really big challenge to somehow correct or adjust for that, because there's always a very strong sample bias.
Yeah, of course, we're talking about different subpopulations of users. This is why in one of the last slides I didn't mention is we're like, I think that there's also a role for cross-platform validation, and the idea of looking at, of picking things that maybe Twitter, doesn't allow to see in other platforms, but that, of course, is really severely limited and is getting way, more limited in Facebook ads now, which kind of add these precise estimates of the advertisement kind of crowd that you could reach in very small areas. Now it's like it's being kind of limited. So in terms of size of the cells that you can actually look at. So my answer would be cross-platform validation and survey and census data together, but there's challenges in that as well. Yeah. But this is the thing about this kind of new research agenda, is that there's a lot of open questions, so and there are a lot of work to be done. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.